There are some things that parents do which make children feel very small. But the fortunate part is that once we realize how children process it, it's very easy to change that behavior. So, I'll explain it with a story. When I was 5 years old, I started going to school, and we had this little field in our school. So, it was just a lot of soil and a few patches of grass and a few trees here and there, and we used to have a grand old time just playing there. So one day while we were playing, we found a piece of wood. Now the bark had been stripped off, and it was slightly white, and for some reason we figured that it was a bone fragment from a dinosaur. We had been talking about dinosaurs and we knew they were dead. So for some reason we just thought, okay, yeah, this is the bone of a dinosaur, and we were really excited. So we hid it and we decided we would dig further in that place and find more bones. So we felt like archaeologists, or I don't know, paleontologists, right? And we were very excited. We didn't even know that that was a profession back then, but yeah, it was an exciting discovery for us. You know how children's imagination runs, right? So I went home and my parents were there and my uncle was there. And I ran in and I was like, oh my god, you know what? We found the bones of a dinosaur in our field today. Now that I think back on it, I can imagine how funny it must have been for all three of them. And I am surprised that they didn't immediately burst out laughing. But my uncle in particular, he got really serious. So he sat me down and then he was like, oh, tell me more. How did you know that it was the bone of a dinosaur? And then I explained, it was this color and it was really hard. And at first we thought it might be wood, but then it was much harder than wood and this and that. And I gave him like an explanation. And then uncle was like, oh my god, seriously? Oh, and what are you going to do next? And then I was like, we're going to dig in that same spot and we're going to find more dinosaur bones. He was like, really? That's so exciting. And we chatted about it for 5-10 minutes and I was really pleased. I was happy and I went off. Right? And I don't really remember digging for more bones later. But I do remember that incident. Because I remember how I felt that day when I was talking to my uncle. Number one, I felt really proud of myself. I felt like, oh my god, I'm doing something important. I'm doing important work. Number two, I felt like what I have to say is interesting. I felt like, yeah, I have something good to say. I have something to say that people will listen to. I felt like my uncle, my parents were interested in my inner world. And I felt like, I am an intellectual. I'm somebody who is able to do intelligent things that people admire. So overall, it was a huge boost for my self-confidence, right? Now imagine what could have happened if I had gone home and said this and my parents and my uncle had just laughed at me. What if they had just started teasing me, mocking me, making fun of me, doing all these things that we think are harmless. When a child says something to us, a little kid, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, when they say something that feels very weird because, it's just a figment of their imagination. What do? We make fun of them and we think it's harmless. We tease them, we mock them. Sometimes we allow their siblings to tease them until the kid cries and we think it's all harmless, but it's not. See, at that point the child is not really looking at what he is saying. It's not about the content of what he's saying. It's more about the child trying to figure out whether he's interesting, whether his voice matters, whether there are people in this world who will listen to him. And at that point, if we make fun of this child, the child is immediately going to think, oh my god, I'm so stupid. If I say something, people are going to laugh at me because I say foolish things. And the child will stop trying to speak. The child will stop imagining. The child will stop really putting pressure on his own brain to come up with new things, because every time he comes up with something new, that is childish. Of course, he's a child, so what he says is going to be childish. But whenever he tries to come up with something, if all he gets is teasing and mocking and laughing, then he's going to stop doing that. And then by the time he is 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, parents will be like, oh, my child has no confidence, he's an introvert, he never speaks his mind, doesn't have anything to say, this, that and the other. Some of these children, they stop putting in effort into really learning anything because they feel like, what's the point? I'm stupid anyway, right? And then parents start worrying and criticizing them and being all like, there's something wrong with this child. But then when this child was really small and coming up with these childish ramblings, these innocent ramblings, how did we react to all that? That really matters, because that is when the child is creating a baseline for himself. That is where the child is trying to figure out if, what his place is in the world, if he's going to be accepted with curiosity and empathy and interest, or if he's just going to be rejected with a lot of mockery. For us, it is just harmless teasing. It is just, we all laugh at one another, we all tease one another. That's how relationships go. But to a little child, that's not how it feels. To a little child, it feels incredibly humiliating and very dismissive. So the next time a little child comes to you, even if you're not a parent, if you're just an adult, and this child comes to you and says something that just sounds very kiddish, very silly, or too like very imaginative, too fantastical, just play along if you can. Maybe the child is trying to pretend to be something. The child is trying to say something in a way that it's almost like he's wearing a costume, or it's almost like he's trying out a different personality. When you see a child doing these things, don't make fun of them. Don't turn it into a huge joke. Go along with it if possible, unless it's a very harmful lie where the child is lying and it is enough to get him or somebody else into trouble. That's a completely different thing. But this kind of thing where they're just using their imagination to explore, don't make fun of them. Don't treat it like a joke. Give them your attention. And I'm not saying you have to sit and listen to it all day every day. I'm just saying, like, give them a little bit of attention, give them some time, make them feel like you're taking it seriously. Because if you take them seriously today, they will feel like they are people worth being taken seriously. They'll feel like their voice has some meaning and their voice is important. They'll feel like speaking more. So this is for literally every adult out there. Children will be childish because they're children. But instead of making fun of them, just give them your attention. Give them a little bit of time. Give them some space and be serious about them. And that will really boost their self-confidence.